Hello friends, this is Durga from IT/Technology Mentor, and in this video I will be covering other Ambari components like monitoring agent, which is Ambari agent, and metrics collection on all the nodes in the cluster, be it VM, our 4-node cluster on VM, or our 6-node cluster on AWS. So um, uh, so far we have already installed Ambari server, and we have validated that we are able to log into our Ambari server on both AWS as well as VM. So let me show it on AWS for now, and for that I need to get the AWS public DNS. I am going to AWS public DNS and give the IP address colon 8080. Hit enter. It is asking for username and password. In our case it is admin. You can hit enter, and then you can click on launch install wizard, and you can give the HDP as cluster name. HDP 2.3 is the package which we have downloaded, so leave that as is. And here we have to give our public give our yum repository server's IP address, which is this one, and also we have the binaries under directory called yum under document root, so we have to give that path here /yum, and you can deselect Red Hat and SUSE. Okay, so you need to click on advanced repository options and configure these things so that it actually connects to the local yum repository server rather than going to public repos. And you can click on next, and here you have to give the key. So to get the key, we need to give the key, a private key of our PEM file, which we have downloaded at the time of creating our VMs in AWS. For VMs, I will talk about it at the end, about those details. But for AWS, we have associated our PEM file. We have associated our key pair while provisioning the instances, and while creating the key pair, it has given you a PEM file which we have downloaded. In this case, the PEM file name is D Gajaraju on my which is on my PC, and I am using that one to connect to all these to this host all these days. So I have to cat on it. I might not display my private key, so I am pausing here, but this is my location, which is home, and then .ec2, and my actual PEM file is this one. So I am pausing it. So it will look like this. You have to copy till this point, and RSA private key, all these 5 hyphens. You should have the complete text from the begin RSS key once you cat, and there should be no additional lines at the beginning or end. And you can copy it, and you can paste it here. Okay, now you can give the host names, and for giving the host names you have to give the private IPs of our hosts. In this case, our private IPs are IP 10.0.0.11 to 16. Okay, so instead of giving, either you can give all the hosts one by one in different line, or you can use pattern expressions. If you hover your mouse onto the URL which says pattern expressions, it will give you a tip of how you can use it. So in this case, we will be using it like this: 10.0.0, and I want from 11 to 16. So I am giving it like this in square brackets. dot ec2 dot internal. And if you are using AWS, the user should be ec2 user, not root. And ec2 user is already sudo. If you are doing it in enterprises, probably the username might be different, but he should be sudo to root. If he cannot sudo to root, then you will not be able to set up Hadoop cluster. Once it is done, you can click on register and confirm, and you can see all the 6 hosts resolved, and you can click on OK. And it will start setting up the Ambari agent first, and after that it will ask us to set up other components. And as part of this video, we will be setting up something called matrix collector, which will run on all the hosts and start sending the metrics to our Ambari server. So that being said, all host text passed on 6 registered hosts. If it talks about any warnings, make sure you go through them and determine whether they are severe or not. And if you can pass on those warnings, you just proceed further. Click on next, and here it is showing up all the packages. So if you look at this, you can install all the packages in one shot, but it might not be good idea to set up everything in one shot. So and also it might not be good idea to set up one by one, but just to explain each component in detail, I will be setting up one by one. And for that, I will be deselecting all these things. And to begin with, I want to set up Ambari metrics on all the servers, and it requires Zookeeper. Zookeeper is a centralized service, and it has to be installed in three instances at the least. I will try to cover Zookeeper in detail later, but for now, just keep in mind that Zookeeper is required for our cluster. It's not part of core Hadoop core Hadoop components, but it is a handy tool to serve as a coordinating service of our Hadoop masters, be it name node, be it HBase masters. And it comes handy in many places. It works for it helps in load balancing, it helps in JDBC connectivity, like it serves as a service provider for our cluster, just like CRS. If you are from Oracle background, the way CRS helps you to create services and facilitate load balancing, high availability and all those things, Zookeeper is the open source answer for all the big data technologies, not just Hadoop. So you can select Zookeeper even if you do not select, and when you click on next, it will suggest you to it will say you did not select Zookeeper, and it will choose it anyway, and you can click on OK. And here I want to have my matrix collector on Ambari agent will anyway push the matrix, and we need to have a matrix collector running on one of the nodes. In this case, I want to set it up on 11, and Zookeeper I want to configure on all the 3 masters. So if you look at my AWS architecture, I want to set up 3 masters and 3 slaves, and all the 3 masters I am configuring Zookeeper. So even in the enterprise, even if you have 10 node cluster, typically you will have Zookeeper on a odd number greater than 1, and most probably people configure 3 Zookeeper servers, which is more than enough for medium to large clusters. You can click on next. Your slave and client assignment have issues. Just choose all and click on next. And here Ambari will actually run in the background and determines most of the parameters as defaults. if you want to customize the parameters which are generated by Ambari or defaults of originally defaults of these tools, you can review these things and make the changes. But for most of the cases, the defaults and the values computed by Ambari, depending upon your cluster configuration, are good enough, so you need not have to modify. But if you want, you can do that. And they provide, so as we are setting up Zookeeper and Ambari metrics as part of this effort, it is suggesting for both, and you can actually review them to understand where the log files are, where the process ID files are, etc. And and then there are some miscellaneous parameters also. So all these things will be stored in XML files or some CFG files or text files on all the nodes in the cluster. So we will come back to the parameters later. If you want to configure email notifications, you can select this and integrate with your SMTP server, so that you can actually configure alerts to push to your email email IDs for better operations. In our case, we are not doing that at this time. Probably after the course, I might try to demonstrate how this can be done, but not at this time. And then you can click on next. Click on next, and you can click on deploy. So the installation is going on. Okay, so there is a problem with this one, because we actually using private IPs, and those cannot connect to the internet. Some of the packages are not being installed correctly. So what we have to do here is, so in a typical enterprise, all these tools which are used on daily basis will be part of the local repository server. But we in our case, we have set up the local repository server only for Ambari and HTTP, so it has some issues identifying the packages that are required to set up Ambari and other tools. So what we have to do is, we have to assign to minimize our costs and try to get this issue resolved quickly. What we have to do is, we have to assign public IPs for all the 5, so that all the other 5 hosts as well, so that we get internet connectivity. And once the installation is done, we will deallocate these addresses. So I am allocating 5 new addresses which are VPC. So it will so all these 5 addresses, it is better to deallocate whenever you are not using, because it will cost you $5 a month. So if you are using 5 elastic IPs, then you will end up paying $30 without adding any value to you. So I have created 4 and 5. Now I have to choose one by one and click on associate address, and here I should give the instance name. So master 1 is already there. I want to give in an order master 2, associate, and I will take care of rest of them. I am almost there, and slave 2 is also associated. And make sure you choose only one at a time while associating the these addresses. Otherwise, you will not be able to associate. You have to choose only one. The associate button will be disabled if you have 2. If you have selected 2, like this, if you have, and if you try to associate, it will associate address will be disabled. So that being said, now let us retry. I hope it works. So it is still failing, and if you look at failures encountered, it's the same issue. still it is not able to identify. The reason is as we are using private IPs, and when we run repo list earlier on all the nodes, we it is not able to connect to the public repositories because of lack of internet connectivity. So we have zipped all the repo files, and we have to unzip them. So the way we can do that is ssh minus tt and ec2 minus user at ip minus 10.0.0 minus 12 dot ec2 dot internal sudo gunzip etc m dot repos dot d and r star. Okay, and let us validate it. ec2 minus user at ip 10.0.0 dot ec2 dot internal lsltr etc m dot repos dot d, and all of them looks good. So let us validate on the other one. Before running the gunzip command. Yeah, so if you see all these gzip files, we have to unzip. So now I'm trying to do it on 13. I can give gz, and here I have to give 13. IP address is 13. Okay, now I have to do it for 14. I can use pssh command also for this, because we already have pssh configured on this. And then 16, the last one. So now we have unzipped these binaries, and now we try this. And now it is actually installing matrix monitor. You can click on this and you can quickly validate that instead of complaining in the std error, now we are getting into the out, and you can see that it is actually installing it. So you can follow the same steps in virtual machine. There you have only 4 nodes, and instead of ec2 user, as a user you have to use root, and you have to get onto the instance and get the private key for our one of our VMs, so that we so that the appropriate private key and the username are passed before setting this up. Other than that, rest of the steps are same, and we have 4 nodes, and make sure you have matrix collector on HDP server. In my case, the one which is considered as master, and then make sure you have zookeeper on HDP server, HDP DN1 and HDP DN2 instances, and then all these things will be taken care even in VM. It's the same. It's almost the same steps. You might get some warnings when you are doing with VM. Validate those warnings, and if you get a warning on something called use pages, you can ignore it. If you get other warnings, send me an email or post a comment, and I will try to respond to that. So now the installation is done. I am clicking on next and click on complete. Okay, now we have the metrics Ambari agent set up with metrics collection, and it will be stored in the database, and you will start seeing the repositories. And if you want to add any new service on top of this, we can click on actions, we click on add service, and at this time whatever we want at that particular time when you want to add the add service, you have to do that. So going forward, we will be choosing one component at a time, just to explain each component in theory, set it up, validate it. But once you understand the concepts, you can actually just set up all the components in one shot. Okay, so I hope you are enjoying the content on my channel. If you are not subscribed yet to my channel, please do so. You will see a lot more content in coming days. And yeah, if you like my videos, please click on like. If you feel free to post comment or ask questions on my videos, and I will be glad to respond to them. And now if you see, we are getting the metrics and the dashboards are being built, and it is taken care with the combination of Ambari server, Ambari agents which pushes data to Ambari server, and metrics collector, and metrics collector actually stores this data into a database, and then Ambari server can read that data from the database and show you the statistics like this, which will give you overview about your cluster. And also, as part of setting up Ambari, we have also seen that we can actually integrate with SMTP to push you email notifications in case of any issues in the cluster. That being said, thank you. I will continue adding more components in the subsequent videos while explaining them in detail. Bye.